If you're very clear about your purpose, clearing clutter is easy because you can pick up something and you can say, does this help me accomplish my work or enjoy my life? If you know what your purpose is, then you can know, yes, this helps it. No, it doesn't.
This is By Joanne Season 2. I'm your host, Joanne Chan, and every Wednesday we bring you inspiring stories, powerful message, and fun conversations with me and my special guests and friends, and it's my personal mission to empower you to live and lead a life with joy. This podcast is for you if you're looking for more joy, courage, passion, and purpose in your life. Now let's dive into today's episode and get ready to laugh, learn, and live your life to the fullest. What if your home or office clutter is just the tip of the iceberg? Our guest today is the pioneer of the organizing industry and author of Taming the Paper Tiger and Less Clutter, More Life. Reveals how physical and digital clutter are often symptoms of deeper emotional and spiritual blockages. With over 4 decades of experience and a global team of certified productive environment specialists, she teaches people how to recognize the hidden cause of clutter beyond lost time and space. Whether you are a high achiever drowning in information or someone facing a life transition, she's here today to offer practical strategies to help you accomplish your work and enjoy your life. So ladies and gentlemen, help me in welcoming the best-selling author and the one and truly only Barbara Hemphill.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Joy. And I love to talk about this subject because it plagues so many people and people are often embarrassed to talk about it.
Wow. So let's start there. Why do you think people are embarrassed? What is so embarrassing about our clutter?
Well, it doesn't seem like it should be a big deal. And the interesting thing is, I built my business for over 45 years on the words, clutter is postponed decisions. But if you do a search on that, you will find that often when people quote me, they add a word and they will say clutter is simply postponed decisions or only postponed decisions or merely postponed decisions. And if you're someone who has trouble making decisions and then someone says to you, well, clutter is just postponed decisions, then how do you feel? And that's one of the reasons. And then the other reason is that people don't understand the emotion behind it. And I learned that very early. When I started working, I would realize that people were having so much trouble letting go. And when I asked enough questions, I would find out that they had had a severe emotional loss in their life. I was autographing Taming the Paper Tiger in 1990 in New York City at Barnes & Noble. And I made that comment. I said that with clients, I found that when people had trouble letting go, particularly paper is what we were talking about then, that it was because of that emotional loss. And a young man in his, I would say, mid-20s came up afterwards and he said, my studio apartment is so full, I haven't had anybody in it for months. And he said, I come home from work at night and I say, okay, I'm going to clear this up. And he said, it's mostly paper. And he said, the only flat surface I have is my bed. And so I start sorting the piles of paper on my bed. And he said, when I pick up the papers to try to make a decision, I become physically paralyzed. I'm just stifled. And then he stopped and he said, my mother died when I was 6. Are you telling me that I have to deal with the grief of losing my mother before I can manage my paper? And I said, well, I'm not a mental health professional, so I can't answer that. But what I can tell you from my experience is that if you find someone you trust, probably not a family member in most cases, and that person can help you decide, remember, clutter's postponed decisions. So you need someone you trust that can help you decide what you need and what you want to keep, not somebody else thinks or not what's read in a book or something like that. And that will solve your problem. Well, several months later, I was speak to several executive women at a university, and I told that story. And a woman walked up to me and she said, "You just saved my marriage." I said, "Wow, that's pretty dramatic. What do you mean?" And she said, "I came to this conference with the intention of telling my husband, who I've been married for 13 years, that I was leaving because he's a pack rat and he keeps everything. And I have allergies and it's hard to keep the place clean." And then she stopped and the tears started coming down her face. And she said, "I never realized before that it wasn't that he wouldn't let go, but he couldn't let go. His mother died when he was 7." So I said, "May I make a suggestion?" And she said, "Yes, of course." I said, "Go home and say something to the effect of, 'I never understood before how important all this was to you. Let's figure out how we can keep it and still live together.'" And when she made that change, it changed everything, because the more we tell someone that it's not a big deal, that they should just let it go, that they don't need it, the more they hang on to it. And I stayed in touch with them for about 8 months afterwards, and it made an enormous difference.
Wow. Let's dissect, because even for me myself, first time hearing these stories, I'm still trying to understand what really is behind the the meaning of our clutter, right? And how is it even a possible decision? Why letting go is such troublesome, and then we accumulate stuff, like really what is going on. And since you mentioned the two stories that had a loss at such a young age, right? They both lost their mother at such a young age. How does that then translate into us accumulating stuff, clutter around our house environment as an adult?
Because we have a hole in our heart. That loss has caused a hole in our heart. There's a pain there. And the loss can be, I remember one time a gentleman told me, "My clutter started at age 55 when I lost the job I loved and I never found another one." Or a woman told me she'd passed childbearing years and wasn't going to be able to have a child. Or sometimes it's what happened in childhood. Often the family in which we grew up had an impact on our organization. Sometimes it's role model. In my case, I was very blessed. I'm not a naturally organized person. I was trained as a musician. I'm an artist. I love to start things. I don't like to finish things. I love the big picture and I don't like the details. So all the systems that I created were created for me. But I was fortunate because I grew up with parents who role modeled that. And so I just thought that's what everybody did. And when I became a mother of young children and I would go to other people's houses, I would be astounded to see that they didn't have those systems that I had. The emotion that's the most common is the fear of losing, of losing a memory, fear of forgetting, fear of making a mistake, fear of offending someone. A good example would be books. One of the things I started learning was that when I was organizing bookshelves and the client would have books autographed to them, even though they were done with the book, they didn't want to let go of it because it had their name in it and it seemed disrespectful to let go of that. So I started autographing my books generically. I just sign them, "Blessings, Barbara Hemphill." And then when I give it to the person, I say, "I've autographed this generically so that when you're done with it, you can pass it on to someone else," because then it doesn't become their clutter. And plus my book goes to somebody else instead of sitting on a shelf somewhere. So, or fear, and a really big one is fear of not being responsible. So fear of doing something to the environment, like the things like so many things. We've kept china and silver and crystal and things for children and grandchildren. My age did that. And then our children and grandchildren don't want it anymore. And then it's, what do we do with it? And now there isn't a market. It's hard to sell it. It's hard to find a place for it. But we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. We don't want to be irresponsible. I remember I go into companies, and in companies we do what we call productivity parties, where literally everybody in the company gets together. We do prizes. We give prizes for the funniest thing, the most valuable thing, the most worthless thing. And we have recycling stations and shredding stations and trash to treasure stations. And in the very first one I did, there was lots of paper. It was before it was such a digital age. And people say, oh, they'd see all the paper and they say, oh, look at all the trees we're wasting. Well, the trees were already gone. I mean, it's like saving the files, the papers in the file didn't save the trees. And one of the principles that my company has is today's mail is tomorrow's pile. So with all kinds of clutter, whatever the clutter is, the most important thing is to stop the problem, to figure out why is this clutter accumulating so that we can figure out what to do to stop it.
Right. Wow. And you also talk about the hidden cost of clutter, right? Now we understand the reasons why we have clutter. So now let's talk about the hidden cost, because a lot of people, including myself, my desk isn't necessarily the tidiest, right? But to me, like it works, it works for me. It has always been this way, it works fine, right? So we might not understand the reason why we should change, because change is hard, right? For someone who has behaved this way for like decades. So what are really the hidden costs of clutter, and maybe some of the surprising ways clutter drains our energy, even relationship, like you say, the marriage, the example, or just in general, our human potential?
Well, one of the ways it does it is energy, and people are not aware how much that clutter takes away their energy until it's gone. I mean, one of the things that I've seen hundreds of times is somebody else, oh, it doesn't make that big a difference. And then when it starts going away, you can see their body change. And the phrase that I've heard hundreds of times is, oh, this feels so much lighter. We just don't realize, but it's also lost opportunities. It's like something that you go somewhere and you get a contact information for somebody and you don't have a system so that you can find it. And when we clean the clutter, we always find gift cards and checks and literally money that gets lost and gets used, but also things that could increase your profitability or give you more opportunities that you're missing other than that. Most people just don't realize until it's gone what the price was that they were paying.
Yeah. And you also connect, it's not just about productivity, right? You also connect it with spiritual clarity or even your life purpose with the work that you do. So how does decluttering become a personal tool for transformation rather than just tidying up your desk or cleaning up your wardrobe?
Well, it has to do with I believe that we were created to accomplish our work and enjoy our lives. When I hear somebody say, I have to go to work, it hurts my heart. Because I think we should enjoy work most of the time. Every work's going to have some work, but most of the time we should be enjoying our work. And if we're not, and we have clutter, there's a correlation. And one of two, if you're very clear about your purpose, clearing clutter is easy because you can pick up something and you can say, does this help me accomplish my work or enjoy my life? If you know what your purpose is, then you can know, yes, this helps it. No, it doesn't. But somebody said to me, I don't really know my purpose. One of the best ways to find your purpose is to start clearing the clutter, because you can say, I don't know what I do want, but I know I don't want this. And it's like peeling the layers of an onion. You peel and peel and peel, and then it's like, oh, that's revealing something that I care about. What brings me joy? What gives me energy? What gives me ideas and things like that.
Yeah, I love that. Now goes back to making decision, right? It's just a simple yes or no. Do I want to keep this or do I not want to keep this?
You can ask the question, what's the worst thing that would happen if I didn't have this? If I got rid of it, because research shows that 80% of what we keep, we never use.
Yeah.
And the more we keep, the less we use, either because we can't find it or we don't remember we have it.
Yes, so true. I'm laughing because when once in a while when I tidy out my room, I was like, oh, I just bought another one. I didn't know I
That's
had
right.
it. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly, it happens all the time to people. You just don't know you have it. And so I'm a big believer in systems, and I use the acronym, a system of saving you space, time, energy, and money. Every time you have to do something repeatedly, it helps to have a system. It's just like, let's say you want to be physically fit and you're going to work out. If you work out randomly, you're not likely to get any kind of results, right? You need to have a system so that you're exercising all the parts of your body and you're doing the right things. Well, organizing is the same thing. You need to have a system. It's not enough to make a decision about something, but you need to then implement it. If we take paper, for example, and paper, a lot of people have paper, even though theoretically this is supposed to be the paperless age. But a lot of people still have paper, and the same principles apply to digital. So it doesn't matter if it's a paper document or a digital document. Email is one of the biggest productivity drains in the world. And many people get up in the morning before they even get out of bed, and they look on their phone and they look at email, open, close, open, close, open, close, and they don't make any decisions, and nothing's really changed except they feel more discouraged. So one of the things we teach them is what we call the art of organizing. There's only 3 decisions you can make about any piece of information. It's action, reference, or toss. So when you open an email or you look at a piece of paper, it's like, okay, is there something I need to do with this? Do I need to respond? Do I make an appointment? Do I need to do something? And that's one action. Reference is, I don't know if I ever need it, but I don't want to throw it away. I'm afraid to throw it away. So then it's going to be reference. And then it's toss. Well, that helps. It's not enough to make a decision. You have to have a way to implement it. Of course, then you have to take it a bit deeper than that. So if it's action, then the question is, well, what is the action? And one of the things that causes us to procrastinate is that there are several actions and it feels overwhelming. So we postpone it. We close it or shove the piece and deal with it later. So one of the questions we use all the time is, what is the next action? Never mind that there's 2 or 5 or 10 actions. What's the next one and when? And then have a system to manage those projects so that you're doing the things at the right time.
Yeah. I mean, I still have papers. I have lots of papers on my table. I'm just that I like to write things down, especially when I'm doing podcasts. But when it comes to emails, yeah, my inbox is always full. And let's talk about images, like pictures. We take so many pictures these days, right? And
Yes.
so since you have been in this industry for like 4 decades, you started your business at like, I don't know, 1978, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But how has you seen the work of your business? How has it evolved over the years, especially now we are in the digital age? It's all about digital files, digital, images. Can we still apply the same principles, your principles, when it comes to managing our digital clutter?
Oh, absolutely. And we do, in fact, I'm doing with a company where I mentioned having a productivity party. We're
Mm-hmm.
having a digital productivity party with a company. And literally there's one day and everybody in the company is going to be working on digital documents. We're implementing today's mail is tomorrow's pile. So they literally are going to ignore all the old documents. Then they're going to get together in teams and address what I call the 7 information management questions that every company needs to answer. What information do we need to keep? In what form? For how long? Who's responsible for filing it? Who needs access to it? How do we find it? And how's it backed up? And so as a team, they will develop a system so that they've stopped the problem. Then as they need the old documents, they can go pull the old documents and pull it into the new system, and they will have stopped the problem. Yeah. Same with photographs. I mean, photographs, people have tens of thousands of photographs. And we have a program, SOAR, where people work together virtually to solve this. And people get so overwhelmed because they have to start with a system that you can't just randomly stop it. You have to say, why am I saving these photographs? What do I want to do with them? How am I going to name them in the future? What platform am I going to save them on? And so, in fact, I think, and people say to me, why aren't you retired? When are you going to quit? And I said, I'm not retired. I'm refired, because I believe I was born for this moment in history, because
Wow.
we have more stuff to organize. We have more clutter, more input coming in now than ever before, and more overwhelm. There's more mental depression and overwhelm and poor relationships. And the clutter affects all of that. If we have the company I founded is called Productive Environment Institute. And we define a productive environment as an intentional setting in which everyone can accomplish their work and enjoy their lives, and ultimately enable others to do the same, because that's what's happened. So if you own a company and your company is a productive environment where your employees can find what they need and everything, that's going to flow over into the customers, and everybody's going to win. You mentioned about how, does it seem like it's really important in this day and age? And I think there's 4 questions. What is organization? So whatever you're talking about, whether you're talking about your calendar, your email, your desk, your life, the first question is, does it work? Is what I'm doing working? The second question is, do I like it? Because sometimes something works, but if you don't like it, you won't sustain it. Eventually, you will give up doing it. The third one is, does it work for the people it impacts? So that might be your significant other. It might be your team members. It might be the organization that you're working in. And then the last one is, can I recover quickly? Which means messes happen. Sometimes people think that organization is things like handle a piece of paper only once, or a place for everything and everything in its place. That's completely wrong. Organization is, are you able to accomplish your work and enjoy your life? But things do fall apart. I mean, there's sickness, there's travel, there's, new software. There's all kinds of things that impact our organization, and we need to be able to recover quickly. And one of the things I do with clients is I help them identify what level of clutter they're willing to work with and how long to clean it up. So in my case, it's a week. So if you come into my office on Thursday, you might look around and say, and they pay you money for organizing? Because I'm not naturally organized, and my desk looks pretty messy on Thursday. Right now, it's not very organized at all. But by the end of workday on Friday, everything will be in its place, and it will have taken me less than 30 minutes to do it. A client who says he's only willing to have clutter for one day, and it has to take less than 5 minutes. So part of organizing is, what will you do? It's not, people say to us, what should I do? How should I get organized? That's the wrong question. The question is, what will you do? And organizing in and of itself has no value. It's a system, it's a strategy to help you do what you want to do. So one of the questions I love to ask people is, if you left this earth tonight, what regret would you have? The answer to that question is a form of clutter, because it's something that's preventing you from accomplishing your work and enjoying your life. Always in your back minds, oh, I really should do this. I should clean up the mess in the garage, or I should reach out to my sister. In my case, when I learned that a few years ago, and when I answered that question, my answer was, I have a daughter that I don't have a good relationship. Not a bad relationship, just not a good one. And I made the comment, oh, there's nothing I can do about it. I've reached out. And the man who was teaching the class said, that's not true. There's always something you can do. So I thought about it. I thought, okay. And that was in January. And in the US in May, we celebrate Mother's Day. And so I said, okay, if I haven't connected with my daughter by Mother's Day, I'm going to get on an airplane and fly to her doorstep. Well, before Mother's Day, we had connected again, because intention is everything. When we are intentional about something, when we decide it's important, it's amazing how the world supports it. Like they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. Well, that's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for sharing your own personal story. how about people who are quitting their job, or relocating, moving from one place to another. Especially now today, like digital nomad is such a big thing. It's like a trend, right, across the world. And I always admire these people because they seem like they don't have any stuff to carry because they can move around pretty quickly, right, from one city to another. And that's like a sense of freedom to do just that. So, how do you help people when it comes to decluttering? How do you help people who are relocating or even ending a marriage, for example?
Well, we have a 5-step process that we use that we apply to everything we do. And so step 1 is state your vision. So let's say you're relocating. So you say, okay, what is your vision for relocating? What would success look like when you get relocated? How are you going to feel? What are you going to be able to do? How are you going to measure success? Why do you want it? Proverbs says, without a vision, the people perish. So you need a vision for that. Then the second thing is identify your obstacles. Okay, what's going to prevent that? Well, frankly, what prevents it a lot of time is our stuff. I mean, there are so many people who stay in a physical location simply because they don't know what to do with their stuff. I talked to a woman yesterday who told me that she and her husband and 3 children have traveled all over the world with 4 suitcases. And as you said, that's freedom. So it's state your vision, identify your obstacle. The third one is commit your resources. So it's like, okay, in order to reach this vision, what are you willing to put into it? How much energy, how much money, how much time, what software, what skills do you have? What friends do you have? What connections do you have? And then that step takes us to step 4, which is I grew up on a farm and my daddy used to have a phrase called where the rubber meets the road. And step 4 is design and execute your plan. So in order to reach this vision, overcoming these obstacles with these resources, here's the plan. Here's what we're going to do. And that's the bulk of it. But then that leads us to step 5, which is sustain your success, because very few plans work right the first time. But if you have this framework in place and your plan isn't working, you can go back and say, okay, which one of the 3 has my vision changed? Like I used to think I wanted to ride horseback. And so I worked on it for a while. And then I discovered that, yes, I love horses, but loving horses and loving horseback riding are 2 different things. But I didn't know that until I tried it. So a lot of times we don't know until we try. Sometimes there's a new obstacle that comes in the way, or sometimes there's a new resource that we didn't have before that we can apply to the problem. And so those 5 steps, and notice the common words: state your vision, identify your obstacle, commit your resource, design and execute your plan, sustain your success. That's what we call the art of organizing. It is paint a picture of what you want your life to be like. And then you say, what is it that I need in order to make that life happen? And whatever you don't need is clutter and you can't afford it.
Yeah. So it seems like we can just follow your system. Or, for people who are listening, or just anyone, right, might think, yeah, I can do it myself, right? I can declutter, I can throw away stuff, right? It's easy. I don't need someone like you to help me with that, throwing away stuff. But what do people get wrong? What do most people get wrong about decluttering? Why should people work with you? Because when it seems like they can just do it themselves.
First question is, first of all, they have to want to do it. I mean, if you don't care, I mean, if it doesn't really, it's like losing weight, right? Or being healthy or anything else. I mean, if it's not important enough to you, then you're not going to do it. And we have a scorecard that people fill out. And you can go to Productive Environment Score and you can fill out that scorecard. And I've looked at thousands of those and I look at it immediately. I can tell whether that person would benefit from my services. I can just tell because I know what it is. So part of it is you have to want to do it. But then the second thing is, if you want to do it and you haven't, it probably means you can't. Otherwise, you would have already done it. So what we've found is that there are three things required to get rid of clutter. And we found this through experiments. So we started out working a lot with individuals, and we did it in person. Well, then we found out a lot of people don't want you in their space, and that makes it expensive. So then we started doing it virtually. And then we ended up starting doing it in classes. So people were together doing things. And we've discovered three things. We have a program called Soar to Success. And we discovered that to get rid of clutter requires three things. The first thing is a system. You cannot clear clutter randomly. If you look at your thousands of pictures and say, oh, I'm going to start clearing the pictures, you can spend hours and hours and hours doing it and nothing's going to happen because you have no system for doing it. So you'll be shuffling, not sorting. The second thing is it requires accountability because organizing is hard. If it were easy, you would have already done it. And all of us are far more willing to be accountable to other people than we are ourselves. And so if I have somebody else that I'm going to do it with, then that's going to help. And the third thing, and this was a surprise, we didn't know this was going to happen, but it did. And we found that when people do it in community, wonderful things happen. Because you see other people who are intelligent and creative and successful, and they're struggling with it too. And it takes away the shame. And we learn from each other because I learn from our students. The students that come on, everybody, even the most disorganized person does some things well. And so you learn from that. So one of the principles of our company is together we are better. We come into our program and we have a system for organizing, we have accountability, and we have community.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's right. Like you said, if we can do it ourselves, we would have done it already.
And the other thing is, my mother used to say, many hands make light work. I remember early on, I was working with an astrophysicist and I was in his garage cleaning out boxes of papers. And he was laughing. And he looked at me and he said, if anybody would have ever told me I was laughing cleaning out the garage, I wouldn't have believed them. But when we're doing it together, it's easier.
It seems interesting, right? It seems fun, the work that you do. So how did you even get started? I mentioned you started your business when you were in your 20s.
Yes.
And what surprised me the most is that you started your business with just like $7.
Right.
In 1978. So talk to us about that. How was it like to start a business back in the days with just $7? How did you do it?
Well, my first husband and I lived in India for almost 5 years, and we adopted 3 orphan children, ages 2, 3, and 4. And one of them had special needs, and we moved to New York City, and my husband worked for a nonprofit and didn't make enough money to pay for living expenses in New York. So I decided that I needed to contribute to the family income, but I wanted my children to be first, which meant I needed to be able to control my time. And so I decided the way I could do that would be to find a problem in the world that I could solve that people would pay me for. So I sat on the playground and I just listened to conversations about what people were talking about. And I began to hear conversations about clutter, about disorganization, about time management. And I thought they didn't have my parents. It was my parents who taught me how to do that. And if you're not naturally organized, we don't teach it in school anywhere. So I took $7 out of the grocery money, which was a big deal because I used to walk 20 blocks because I didn't have 50 cents for the bus. And it just said disorganized. I organized closets, files, kitchens, you name it, call Barbara Hemphill. And I got 2 crank calls from guys trying to pick me up for a date. And the third call was from a woman, 55 years old, whose husband was an attorney and he had died very suddenly and left piles of paper everywhere. And she didn't have a clue what to do. And so I went in and started sorting the piles and helping her. And to promote my business, I would speak any place that I could get a platform, a parent-teacher association or a church or a garden club. And I would give speeches on 10 ways to organize your kitchen or 10 ways to organize your kids or 10 ways to get organized for the holidays or whatever. And that's how I launched it. And I quickly found that paper was the most difficult, that we could do the closets and the cupboards and the kitchens, but paper was the most difficult. And so and people ask me how long to keep. People say, how long do you keep real estate records or health records? And I didn't know the answer. And I thought there must be a book on it. So I went to the library and I discovered there wasn't one. And I thought that was pretty amazing because it didn't make any difference how much money you earned. You still need to know the answer to that question. So in 1988, I wrote a book called Taming the Paper Tiger, and that became a bestseller. And I did TV shows and things like that. And then when we moved to the digital age, I moved and renamed my company. It was called the Paper Tiger Institute, and I renamed it to Productive Environment Institute because I wanted to apply those same principles to digital. And so I've reinvented myself several times, and I have since 1998 been training people to do what I do virtually. So they come to us and they, in take a program, they can do it in 90 days. So we have people who can purchase our program and within 90 days can be their own consultant. They own the business. They pay us for the training, and then they pay a right to own our intellectual property because it's everything they need to build a business. So then and many of them are people who were in the corporate world. They're mostly women. We've had a few men, but it's mostly women who've been in the corporate world and really wanted to get out, wanted to start a business, but didn't know how to do it. Well, because they've been in the corporate world, they understand organization, they understand systems and things like that. And so we're giving them everything that they need to start the business. Or others are people who are coaches. They've been coaches. They've been certified as coaches, but they weren't sure what to coach on. So then they came to us and say, okay, you now know how to coach. Now you can coach about productivity. And so you can become a productivity coach. So that's how it all started. And so we just had a retreat last week and we all got together. We had a no tech retreat. We had a 3-day retreat with nobody used any technology. And we spent the time interacting with each other and problem solving. And we had music and all kinds of things. It was wonderful.
Wow. I didn't even know you have retreats, and there's so many things that you do, right? It's not just about like helping people clean their stuff, right? It's more than just that. It's about community. It's about purpose. It's about connection.
People can even come to I live in a home that's on 70 acres and has a 35-acre lake. And so people come and have a private retreat here. They can come and stay at my house and for 2 days, and they tell me what problem they want to work on before they come. Like, okay, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what my purpose is, or, whatever the issue is. And they come, and then the two of us just hang out together. They spend the night here. They have a private room with a private bath, and they spend the night here. And we solve what it is that it would take for them to accomplish their work and enjoy their lives.
Wow, that sounds amazing, And you seem so successful. You are so successful, right? You have built a successful business. You have global team, certified teams, right? Running their own businesses. What is one lesson from your own entrepreneurship journey that you can share with people who are trying to build a business or still struggling, or one strategy that you have personally applied in your own business that made you successful that you can share with entrepreneurs today?
I want to give you two of them because I think they're both important. The first one is you want to find something that you know about, that you have knowledge about, that you care about, that there's someone who wants it. So you can't be all things to all people. I give an example. There are a lot of organizing consultants who would say, when I started the industry here, industry in America didn't exist. That $7 ad started the industry. And people would say, I organize homes and offices. That's not a business. You can't be all things to all people. So when people come for our training, they identify, I want to work with women who have ADHD, or I want to work with real estate offices, or I want to work with male executives, or I want to work with whoever it is. So find someone that you care about, that you feel comfortable working with, and that you really have a passion for. You don't go where the money is. If you go where you think the money is, you'll burn out eventually. It might work for a while, but eventually you'll burn out. And that's one thing. But the second thing is just don't give up. Just keep trying. And if you're not failing at something, it means you're not trying enough, because the way you learn is by trying. You try something And if it doesn't work, you say, why didn't it work? What can I learn from it? And what can I do differently the next time? So if it's something you feel passionate about, you just keep on trying. And a lot of women, people talk to me. I'll be 79 next month, and I talk about my age all the time. And a lot of women don't want to talk about their age. And I said, the reason I talk about my age is because I want people to know that getting older can mean getting better. Because I tried to commit suicide at age 11. I was in a mental hospital in my 40s. And here I am in my 70s, and my last years have been the best years of my life.
Well, I cannot tell that you're 79, for Christ's sake. You are full of energy. You are full of inspiration, and it's such a joy to speak with you. You radiate joy, and just I couldn't tell if you didn't mention it. Yeah, maybe you're in your 60s at most, right? Wow. So what is your secret?
I mean, my secret is my passion. My passion for growing, for learning, for connecting. I love people. I love to encourage other people. And it's like, what's not to love? I mean, there's so many things in the world that you can find. No matter where you go, you can find things that you can do to make the world a better place, and you can connect with people. When I first started in business, everybody said you have to network. Well, I love to give speeches, but I hate networking. I hate going into a room of people that I don't know. And I was like, oh, this is awful. Well, I discovered a secret. I look around the room and I look for somebody who looks as miserable as I feel. And I go to that person. And some of my best friends are people that I met that way. So wherever you are, you can find someone that you can be a blessing to. And when you bless other people, you will be blessed.
Oh, I think the reason why, not just networking, right, in a room full of people or strangers, I think it's the reason why we get overwhelmed is because we don't know where to start, right? Or we focus on we're trying to do everything, right? But just start small, like you say.
If I go to a networking meeting, all I want is I want to leave that room knowing one person better than I did when I arrived.
Yeah, it's all about setting the intention beforehand, right?
And if you think about it, it's another way to declutter, right? Because if you go into a networking group and all you're trying to do is collect contacts and meet everybody and whatever, you're really cluttering up your life. And here's another thing, if you don't have a system for follow-up, you might as well not go in the first place.
Yeah.
You're far better off to go and meet one or two people and make sure you follow up with them, rather than to try just collect all these names and things and then not follow up with them.
So true. Yeah, so true. You never think about, how about collecting name cards, right? And people in your life. Sometimes you don't need that friend anymore, but it's still in your space and it's toxic. It could be, right?
And clients are this. I mean, one of the things I love about being an entrepreneur is I can fire clients. But because if it's not a win-win kind of thing, I'm not doing them any service, and they're not doing me any either. I mean, that's part of the reason that I love being an entrepreneur, is because I get to choose the people that I work with, and I love the people I work with. And there have been a couple of occasions when I've worked with people say, you know what, I really don't think this is a good match.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing so generously and so lovingly with me and my listeners today. I could talk to you for hours, but I know it's late for you. I don't want to take too much of your time. Is there anything that you really want to talk about? Perhaps I didn't ask you or didn't let you.
Well, I think I brought it up earlier, but I think it's really critical. I think asking yourself the question, if I left this earth tonight, what regret would I have? Because we're looking around the world now. I mean, one of my dearest friends now is in the Philippines, where there's enormous floods going on. We have all kinds of things happening. We never know how many more days that we have left in our life. And I think it's really critical that we make each day the best. And so if you ask that question, what's the one thing that has to happen for me to be happy with my life? Then that's something you should work on. That's a form of clutter. And that's one of the things one of the services I offer is called Vision Accelerator. And that's where we work on that. So I encourage people to ask that question. And if there's something that's that's preventing them from accomplishing their work and enjoying their life, then it's time to address it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. For people who want to know more about your work or even become a certified trainer under your organization, or just want to work with you, what is the best way to connect with you?
You can go to productiveenvironmentscore.com. And that's a scorecard. It'll take you about 5 minutes maybe to fill it out. On the scorecard, it'll say, what's the one thing that has to happen to improve my productivity? Be sure you answer that question. And then when you get that scorecard, you'll get a picture. You mentioned that your desk was messy. Well, one of the things you'll get is a handout that's called an office blueprint, and it describes all the components of having a productive environment in your office. And then that'll connect us with us, and you can get a 30-minute consultation to help you. When I look at the scorecards, I can quickly point you in the right direction of this is something you should work on. This is a place to start first, and that will get you started. So just go to productiveenvironmentscore.com. And you can always go to barbarahemphill.com. That's my website. I'm very reachable. You can reach out to me and talk, as I feel passionate about doing this. And when people want to change their lives, I want to be supportive.
I'm sure that's going to be so helpful. Just a 30 minutes call with you, right? I'm sure they'll gain so much insights about their life and their purpose. So thank you so much for everything that you do. I really appreciate the work that you do, helping people to better their lives and also make an impact in the world and make it a better place for all. So yes, guys, I'll put her link in the show note below, her website, and the link to a scorecard. That's where you start, and share this with someone you love, or just a friend who needs to hear this, whether it's a friend or a loved one, a family member. And remember to like and subscribe so you never miss another episode coming to you every Wednesday. Thanks for listening, and I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead. Bye.
Thank you again for tuning into Find Joy Joanne podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, take a screenshot and share it on your IG story and tag FindJoyJoanne_podcast so I know you are listening. And leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already done so. And remember to hit the subscribe button whether you are listening on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, or any of your other favorite platforms. If you love what we are doing and want to become one of our sponsors, you can send me a DM to connect. And thanks for being here. I will see you soon in the next episode.